so we're inside the engine bay. As we mentioned before, we're working on two different projects at the moment. We're cleaning up the outside, scraping away loose base layer paint, getting it down to the outer gel coat. So you'll see some of that in this episode. And then we're also inside the engine bay removing the old Seacocks. The engine's ready to drop in, but we want to do the things that will be very difficult to do if an engine's in the way. Even though the Beta Marine engine's a lot smaller than the old Volvo Penta, let's go ahead and let's make it all new, right? Make it new and do it the right way so that it will last. So that's what we're doing in this episode. We're just getting comfortable in this really hot, small West Cell 32 engine bay. First up, water intake. And you can see it. It comes in. It comes down. So it looks all the way down into this Javsco. It's a pump. And you got electric to the pump. Then it loops around the Seacock, goes underneath to a strainer, and it goes. So the black coming into the cabinet here is not the sink drain, and the sink drains to that Seacock. That vent hose to the diaphragm. There's a manual. Look at this. So it looks like we can pump out. We can pump out the bilge manually, and we have two bilge pumps, which come into through there, out these, and then that's where we had them looping up, down, and out that Seacock. We have three Seacocks. This lower one looks like it's the raw water intake, because there is the raw water strainer. And it came down this tube. Tube went into the engine, top of the engine. Since, for example, we're replacing the Seacocks, right? We're just getting an idea of how this is coming together. Some things are very clear, like the cockpit drain, and it drains out the Seacock, right? Then we have a vented loop going up above us. Then we had this one coming into the sink. But it's not the sink drain, because that drains to this Seacock. It is actually going down to a manual pump, and then down into the bilge. So we'll just do this. Manual bilge pump drain. And then we just slap it on somewhere, probably closer to the collar, so we know. And we'll do that for everything and get all this out and diagram it. As much trouble as that raw water strainer was, I don't think it will go there. I mean, you got all these network of drain hoses and electric. You know, I think the electric will be moved out, but there's got to be a better way to do that. Battery bank can move. Maybe it's right here, and it'd be a quick, have plenty of room to change it. So just some ideas here as we undo everything. I got to leave the large Seacocks because they're still serving as drains for my cockpit when it gets rained. All right, so these are ready to cut from the outside and twist off. We're gonna give it a little bit of a go here. I don't think we're gonna be able to undo them without removing the mushroom cap of the through hole on the outside. The larger 1.5 drainage seacock, we're not gonna remove this until we have everything ready to go, because of course it is catching the drainage of the cockpit when it rains. When I'm going to lower the old stuff out, simple little rope. We'll pick apart the hardware, kind of like we'll do with the sea strainer. I'm going to go through my process on the interior using a Dremel. You can Dremel underneath, loosen up all the adhesive. Then I'm coming in with chisel. This one I already got up underneath it pretty good. I'll come in and they just pop right out. This is a neat little baseboard tool. There we go. And now we have a hole in the boat. The next step is to get these closed in. So Dremel, expose some new glass, tape it from this side, and inject some thickened epoxy. Then we'll come back. We'll make sure our through-hulls will line up appropriately. And then these backing plates, they'll be on the other side, of course. But at least this way we can make sure we have the right through-hull. I also want to go back and kind of open up former repairs, right? Just to maybe put one more patch over that. We're down to fiberglass down here. I think, while we have the time and the resources, come up underneath here and just sand it, and then wrap a little bit here. Something like this is maybe fairing will do. But again, you see this is the old gel coat, or the upper gel coat, and then the rest of this just kind of picks out. Get all this loose stuff off, but we're down to it. We're down to this last layer. So here's the problematic area. Opposite of this was the delamination underneath the settee table. So we're gonna take this back all the way down to the glass. See what happened here. The most important step at this point will be to sand down this port side opposite of the damage on the interior, where it looks like the fiberglass buckled under the settee table. So here on the outside, we want to check. We'll sand down to the laminate, be able to check to see if there's any interlaminate damage, and build that back up with fiberglass if we need to. And then the second big project that we're also working on while we wait for some of the parts to finish preparing for the engine installation is we're going to go ahead and move on to the hull. As you can see with the hull, we have the soda blasting did a great job getting down to this last layer, and just underneath it is, having several months of being able to dry out, it's beginning to flake, but just underneath is the gel coat. The gel coat is the clear layer here. And then now the red and blue was just another gel coat applied over top, so that when they finished off the hull, they could squeegee out any air bubbles. So all that's left is to scrape a lot of it, sand where we can. We'll be using 80 grit to sand off the last of the layer, last of the paint, and we'll use 50 grit on anything that's a little bit heavier to that was kind of left over. You have just cracks in the gel coat. We'll take that down too, to the glass. All right, so out of the entire project, I'm kind of at the point where I hope I'm not skipping a step. So this is gel coat. This is the gel coat. This is the last gel coat layer, so they could get all the air bubbles out. And usually when you sand the hull, you get down to when you begin to see gel coat and you stop. So this is fine. This is all okay. So as I'm going around, if it chips away, and I kind of keep going until it stops. So that one's kind of a finish. But anything that chips away, I take off. Now, am I gonna sand all of this? I just don't think I need to. But you also want the primer to adhere. And once I've painted, man, it's done. But any sort of flake like this, I'm just kind of gonna go and take off what I can. And once it starts kind of shaving off, I think the spot's kind of done. Need to follow these cracks. All the little things I can do while the boat is here on the farm and not in the water, because at that point you'd have to haul out and do a lot of that work there. So we're also going to sand and paint the engine bay. As I mentioned, we're going to reinstall the Seacocks. We're going to have a little backer plate as well and redo the Thru-Hulls. The backer plates will either glass in or we'll use some sort of adhesive, maybe 3M 5200. The Thru-Hulls we'll seal those in with Seacocks 291 or something comparable. I mean, everybody who's subscribed and who's watched the channel and followed along knows we're going to do all the little things, all the big things the right way, but we're going to take care of everything possible, even though we're eager to get the engine in and we're eager to get the boat back to the sea and to travel. There's no timetable, there's no rush. The only constraint, to be honest, is time, finding the time to do all of this. So in lieu of rushing, we want to take care of the things that are very important to the boat. We're not redoing everything, but continue to follow.